Hello, everyone, and welcome to Stories at the Way LA. My name is Sam, and we are here with Jaden.
Yep.
Welcome, Jaden, to Stories at the Way LA, bro.
Thank you for having me today, bro.
Yeah, man, we're excited to hear your story, and
Of course.
I know a little bit about you and a few people at the campus. But really, for people who are brand new, how did you grow up? Share a little bit about what life was like.
Yeah, so I grew up complete family. I got my two parents, my mom and dad in my life, and then three other siblings. So I'm the middle child. I got two older siblings and a younger one who's 12.
Older
So
brother and sister?
Yeah,
Or?
so
Okay.
older sister and an older brother, and then my little brother, he's 12. So, and then myself, so I fit right in the middle. And we always grew up. My parents always supported me. We were always financially stable. I also had my grandma in my life at a young age, and she kind of helped. But while my parents went to work, she would help kind of babysit me.
Take care of you guys?
Yeah, so she kind of played a big role in raising me. And then as I think I was maybe 6 years old, my grandma started, her role was if I stayed at her house, you had to go to church the next morning. And for me, I went to a Catholic church. So yeah, so I grew up Catholic. My whole family did, my cousins, everyone on my mom's side. We grew up Catholic, and that was something at a young age, I started going to on the weekends or even on all the holidays, Christmas, Easter. I would go to a Catholic church, and I kind of knew, the fundamentals that, there was a God that loved me. There was, he sent his son Jesus to die for me.
Basics.
But that's kind of, the fundamentals, the basics.
What were the church services like? Like, what is Catholic church
I don't
like?
remember
I've never
too
been
much
to
of
one.
it. I did get baptized at a very young age.
Oh, okay.
When I was maybe 3. I did certain classes they offered as a kid. Yeah, it was kind of like going to like a kids class. So I would go to that, but I don't really remember too much. I just remember it being like the same thing every week, every Sunday.
Yeah, okay.
They called it like mass. So I
Right,
would go
I've
there.
heard of that.
And then I would go with my siblings, my parents, and we would do that Sundays.
Wow, that's crazy. So you're growing up Catholic. You grew up with a family. And about at what age did you start to maybe be exposed to some things that were negative or hurtful or bad?
Yeah, so I think growing up, I always looked up to, because I was the youngest at the time. My little brother wasn't in the picture yet. So me growing up, I always looked up to my parents, number one, and then my siblings, they played a big role into helping me grow up. And then I would say for me, I think, like I said, I was pretty innocent in elementary, growing up. I was in church already, a Catholic church, and just being around like family, I always had that in my life. And then I would say as I got older, I start to see things that my parents would do, that my older siblings would do, and I would think it was normal. And so I started getting a little bit older. And I think at 10 years old, I got a hold of my older siblings' device, and I seen pornography for the first time as a 10-year-old. And I think that really opened the door of lust, perversion. I would say even like those early ages, 8 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old, I'd see like my parents get drunk, partying every weekend with their families, my cousins, my uncles, you name it. Like I would just watch my dad get drunk, so at an early age, I seen all that. And my sister herself, grew up a little bit in the party lifestyle. So I kind of got to see that side of it growing up. And then as a young kid, I didn't really know him better. So I thought it was so normal,
Oh,
So,
yeah, you thought it was like
I'm
just what you
Mexican,
do.
so I got a lot of cousins, and I would see them,
At the
parties
parties
all
and
the
stuff.
time,
Man.
every weekend. So yeah,
Man,
that was
well,
kind of what I grew up in.
Well, everything that you're talking about, all these bad things, right? Like they're all at reach.
Yeah.
When was it that you reached for some of the things that your parents were reaching for and tried some of those things?
Yeah, so as I got older, like I said, I thought it was so normal. So I probably would say 6th grade when I hit in middle school. So all of elementary, like I said, I was pretty innocent. And then once I started to hit 6th grade and 7th grade, I start to really just tap into a lot of like alcohol, drinking, because I see my parents do it. I thought like them doing it like was something I was supposed to
And
do.
your family around
yeah,
you.
so it ran through my family. So I would say I think 6th grade I started drinking, and I always grew up playing baseball. So I would have a lot of games on the weekends. So if I didn't have a game on the weekends, Friday night I would go with friends and we'd plan it out, and I would stay at their house, and I would tell my parents like, hey, I'm staying at this person's
Right.
house, and
Cover it up.
cover it up a little bit,
Yeah.
and then I would go out with my friends. And for some reason, I don't know why, I always grew up like hanging around with older people, like 2 years. So when I was in 6th grade, I'd hang out with the 8th graders. So I started
They
drinking.
always have access to
yeah,
all kinds
the
of stuff.
access. So I was kind of even my friends, they put a strong influence on me of drinking and vaping at a young age, and kind of lusting already,
How old were
watching
you when you got
pornography.
into vaping and stuff?
Vaping, I would say 7th grade. I think 7th grade, if I remember correctly. So 6th grade, I started drinking, and then 7th grade, I was vaping. And this is something I would do like at least every other 2 weeks. Vaping was a weekly thing, and then drinking, It just depended on my schedule, but every other week,
Man,
yeah.
when you would
So
drink and you would vape and you would get into these things and party, um, what do you feel like happened after you did those things? Right? Like, what were some of the decisions or some of the feelings maybe that you felt after you would do those things? Like, did you feel like guilty for them, knowing it was wrong? Like, kind of where were you at there?
yeah, so I didn't really have too much relationship with God,
Right.
so I never felt like the like that side of it. I would
Right.
just do me, so
Yeah.
I
Even
wouldn't
with the
really.
Catholic
Yeah,
like
yeah,
background. Oh,
I
okay.
didn't really have too much regrets. It
Yeah.
was something like I wanted to have fun in the moment. And then, like I said, all growing up, I was a pretty joyful kid. Had a family, we lived in a nice house. So for me to start getting into that, I knew kind of the direction it was taking me at a very young age. Just because my family, they taught me kind of good morals growing up, trying to be a good kid growing up, and I started drinking, vaping, and it felt good in the moment because I'm hanging out with my friends, and
It's like a
I
party,
I
like hang
noticed it would
out.
like kind of put me up top with my friends, like they would view me as like a
Like cooler?
cooler, I would
Yeah,
say.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
So for me, like I knew, like, but deep down, like I knew, like when I would go home, I would still battle the same things. Drinking, it left me a lot of depression, anxiety, just feeling anxious about the future. Because here I am, so at a young age already, vaping, drinking, and I kind of knew at a young age, like if I'm already doing this at 12 years old, 14, 13, like I can't imagine what 6 years when I'm 18, like what my life is gonna look like. So I kind of knew like that side of it, but I still kept on doing it because I just didn't. I was so stuck on it. I didn't know how to stop. So and then I'm going to school with the same kids every day, so it's kind of hard to break something when I'm already like kind of around like the same environment that I'm used to. So it was
Definitely.
super hard for me to break out of.
When was the time when you knew it was too hard for you to break out of and when you knew you needed to stop, but you somehow also knew that Jesus was the way for you? Can you share a little bit about that moment where it was like too much for you, like and you
Like I
needed
said,
God?
growing up as a Catholic, I just knew the basics of it. I didn't really know too much of it. And then one day, my mom, she woke up and she's like, "We're gonna go to church," and I was like, "Okay, cool." Like something we did on the holidays a little bit. And then she was like, "But I want to take you to Christian church." And then for me, I never even heard that term
Wow.
Christianity like ever in my life.
That's
So I'm like, is that a
crazy.
different type of
Like, what is
like what is
this?
that? Like,
Yeah.
So she took me, and I remember she went by herself the week before. And I remember like telling her, like, let me know how it goes for you. So she ended up explaining like, man, I love it. I want to take you next week, you and your dad. And I feel like you guys are going to love it. So I go, and it felt a little bit different, because
Yeah, right,
it
way
was like
different.
everyone's coming up to me all joyful, like how you doing, how you
Wow.
doing, young man, all these things. And I'm like, man, these guys are so happy and joyful.
Yeah.
And then yeah, she took me for the first time, and it was something we would do weekly now. And so as I kept going, I would still be mindful, like my mom really wanted to go, but I didn't really want to go. So I would only go because like she wanted to
Because she
attend.
wanted you to
And
go.
even like you can ask all my other siblings, my dad, my other siblings, like no one wanted to go except her. But we all knew like it made her happy. And I started to see a little bit change in her life. But yeah, she would go super early. She'd get there. She'd try to be the first one there. And then my dad, I always grew up playing baseball
Right.
and sports, and he would pick me up from sport practice or games, and he would take me straight to church. And service started at 7, and we would get there right at 7. But because my dad, and even myself, like we didn't like worship, like we didn't like. We tried to like kind of miss most of it, but kind of like show my mom like, hey, at least we went. So it was kind of like just something she wanted to do. But like I said, over time, I would still be mindful, and I would listen to whatever pastor was speaking, and I started to pull a few things, like learning like what I'm doing is wrong, like the friends I'm hanging around with is wrong, and all these things. And I would attend a youth group, so there's nothing but teenagers. And the youth pastor, Pastor Gabriel at the time, he would share a few things, and kind of like over maybe from 12 to 14 is where I struggled the most. So around maybe the end of my 13 going on 14, I really started like going weekly to church, and started to
Wow.
understand a little bit like
Little
how
more
like
like, yeah.
kind of like a different perspective who God actually is.
Oh, yeah.
Not that he's just a God that sent his son Jesus to die for me, but he wanted a true relationship with me.
That's so good,
Yeah,
bro.
so
When was it for you that you decided to go all in with God?
yeah, so it was the summer going into my high school year.
Oh, okay.
I had already in middle school, I had messed up. Basically got kicked out of my middle school. My parents were forced to send me a different school to because my behavior was so bad that they sent me to a Christian school, actually, my mom. Yeah, because I was just a handful. So she was like, "Man, I don't know what to do with you." And like I said, she was already going to church. She probably had the only in the family. She had the strongest relationship with God. So her way of like sending me there was to kind of clean up my mess. And um, I went there for a year. And then going to my senior year, they did a youth camp at the
At
Wayward
the Way
Outreach.
Church, yeah.
Yeah, youth camp. And I didn't know anybody in the youth at the time, and I just didn't want to go, to tell you the truth. But she
Yeah.
had already paid for me, so,
Oh
and it was a
wow.
week long, Monday through Friday, and I remember going, and they had activities, games, all that. I found it was fun, but I hadn't really had like an actual encounter with God yet. So, and the last night I was there, there was like maybe 250 teenagers there, and I remember my last night, literally there, they do a call. And the call was this: Pastor Gabe, he did a call, and he was like, "If you want to give your life to God, I want you to slip up your hand." And there's 250 kids there, and the call goes, and he goes 3, 2, 1, raise your hand. And I didn't raise my hand actually, but I seen a bunch of kids like near me raise their hands, and they're crying, and I'm just like whatever the feeling, I want to feel it. And like I said, growing up, I was already depressed, lonely,
Right, right,
all
right.
these battling. I already knew like I was in trouble.
Right.
And then so this guy to the left of me, he was like, "Hey, bro, you want to go up there?" Cause Gabe had asked everyone to go to the front if you raise your hand. So, and he asked me, and I felt like kind of guilty if I said no. So I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll go up there." And
Yeah.
so it ends up being like 250 at the front of the altar.
Oh man,
And
like everybody.
out of 250, Pastor Gabe, he somehow points me out. And I had never really like knew him like that at the time. And he was like, "Hey, bro, I want to pray for you." And he asked me what's my name and stuff. And he was like, "I want to pray for you." And he prayed for me in front of all 250 people. And like, I didn't even tell him I was going through, didn't have a relationship with him at the time. And he literally prayed for me. And like, what he was praying for me was like exactly what I was going through.
Whoa,
He
that's
was praying
good.
depression, secular music, lust, pornography, like you name it. Everything that I was going through,
Wow.
it's like as if I had a list, and like he knew every single thing on the list.
That's so
And
cool.
he's praying for me, and I'm just crying. Like I've never probably cried that much in my
How
life.
did you feel at this point? Like, what were you
Yeah. So
feeling
I
in
was
that
just
moment?
like, dang, like God used a man to point out 250 people. He pointed me out. So like that's kind of how I knew like God really wanted a true relationship, because my mom would preach it to me like, "Hey, God wants a relationship with you." Yeah, but it's like a little different when you actually feel it rather than just hearing it your whole life.
Right. You have to
So
experience that
yeah, and I
relationship.
would always go to church, and I would see people encounter God for the first time, and I could kind of see like the peace they have, the joy, and that was something like I didn't know how to have an encounter with them. I think that's kind of kept me like in the same position, struggling, because I didn't really actually like know how to encounter Him on a deeper level. Yeah. So yeah, so he prays for me, and like I said, everything I like felt growing up, like he named it. And I felt God's peace for the first time, His love, and that was pretty much kind of like the starting point for my life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
so
powerful. And
yeah,
how old were you again at
I
that
was
point?
14.
You're
Yeah, so
14.
I was probably 14 at the time. So I was just about to
Wow.
start high school a week
Wow.
later, and I had an encounter with God.
And how old are you now?
I'm 22. Yeah,
22.
22.
Man,
So
that's a lot of
8
years
years,
later.
8 years,
8
yeah. So 8
years of
years.
serving the Lord, huh?
Yep.
That's so powerful. And now you're a leader in LA. Can you share with everybody what you're doing right now with the Way
Yeah,
LA?
so it's funny because like I said, I had a rough teenage year. So now what I'm able to do is reach teenagers all of Los Angeles and different cities, Compton, Inglewood, all over the place of Los Angeles. And I really get to allow God to use me, because once you kind of give your life to God, I believe God wants to give you purpose. And when I got saved, He gave me like instant purpose in my life. So now I'm able to reach other teenagers that are depressed, lonely, struggle with alcohol, smoking, whatever they're going through. Like a lot of these teenagers, they really don't have like a dad or a mom, or either one or the other, and they don't have like someone to go to. So that's something I get to kind of be that example in their life on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So
Comes back full circle.
yeah, full circle. So whatever I went through, I get to share, like, it's kind of like having like a cure. I'm able to share that cure, like, hey, this is how you overcome lust, depression, anxiety, whatever it is. I'm able to like they have complete access to me now.
To bring that healing,
Exactly.
to help them.
Yeah.
That's so good, bro. I love that. Well, your testimony is a cure, bro.
Yeah.
You know, what God has done through you is just super powerful. And I enjoy seeing you serving and,
Thank you, bro.
just doing it with the right heart. You know, if I could say anything about you is that you have a great heart.
Thank you, bro.
You know, and so if there's one thing that you wanted to say to somebody who might have been in your shoes, maybe at 12, 13, those early years before you gave your life to Jesus, what would you say to them right now?
Yeah, so I would probably tell them that to really completely give your life to God, because at the end of the day, God doesn't want 50% of you. He wants 100% of you. Whatever you're going through, depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, just know like there's a God out there that wants a true relationship with you. And it's deeper than that. He wants to give you peace. He wants to give you joy. Just like myself growing up, I was depressed, lonely, didn't know what to search for. But at the end of the day, I gave all 100% to God, and that's what I would tell them.
Amen. Well, great job, bro. We really enjoyed your story, and it's so powerful. And I can't wait to see everything that God does in your life.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course, bro. Well, we thank you guys so much for joining us here on Stories at the Way LA, where we're hearing amazing stories like we just heard from Jaden about how God transforms a life through the power of Jesus. If God's transformed your life before and you're now saved and you're a believer, we love you. Thank you for tuning in. If you don't know Jesus, your opportunity is one prayer away, and commit your life to him. God doesn't want 50%, he wants 100%. And, make sure to, share this video, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you never miss a story. And then when you hear the story, share it. Share this on Facebook, on Instagram, on all your platforms so people can hear the story of a life that has been changed. We love you guys. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next time. God bless.